Good morning. I think it's time to start the session now, and you're here today to hear something about EASEy IDE extensions without any plugins. So whom of you has never developed a plugin? All of you have developed plugins, so you're still interested in finding out how to do extensions without plugins. I think that's great, because sometimes it's just easier to do some scripting in the IDE, because you can change it much easier than if you write a plugin. So some stuff about me to begin with. I'm from Germany, northern Germany, the city of Bremen, mostly famous for its beer and the story of the town musicians. I'm also co-leading the user group in Bremen and organizing some unconferences in Crete and Edinburgh. The Eclipse Advanced Scripting Environment is what we're going to use today, and this is based on Eclipse. So it's a plugin you can not only run on Eclipse but on any RCP application basically. And over that you can use different scripting languages, like for example Python, JavaScript, Groovy, and there are some more applications, and it's quite easy to implement actually new applications. What you can do is launch scripts directly from the UI of the IDE, which we will see in a minute. So the history of the plugin is it was started in around 2012 by Christian, and the first release under the name Eclipse EASE was in 2015, and it also won the Community Award for the Most Innovative Project in 2016. So we directly jump into the IDE to develop our first script. And first, if you install EASE into the IDE, you have a new perspective over here, which is called the scripting perspective. And if you open up the scripting perspective, you have a script shell over here. You can also change the language. For now, we just go with the JavaScript. And you can type anything in here, and it will show you the result right away. The result of 2 and 2 is 4. You can also say print hello world, and it will go to the console output, hello world over here. And you can also use Java as well, and it will also show you some content assist, Java, IO, if you wait for a bit. Like here, for example, I already did a test file over here, and we can just use this variable, if I would actually use it correctly, and yeah, about that. And then we can say f exists, for example, and use the Java code just in the Rhino script shell. But this is not what we want to do today. We want to develop the scripts without the script shell today. We just write a new script by creating a new JavaScript file over here, new file, first JavaScript. And first of all, we do the same like we did in the console window. We just type hello world over here. And now we can execute it directly by right-clicking and saying run as eScript, and it will, like before, print hello world to the output. What we also can do is integrate this with the UI now and show a dialog instead of printing it on the command line. So let's quickly define a variable over here, our message, hello world, print the message. And now if we want to find out how to actually use a dialog with EASE, there's the modules explorer. So everything which you can do with EASE and which is predefined is organized in modules. And you have a list of modules over here. The most important ones are given by the system. So there is a system module and some submodules over here. If you want to find out how to actually show a dialog, you can just type dialog in the filter window over here. And it says show info dialog over here. We can just drag it inside. And you see below there's a message parameter which is shown in big and the title which is shown in cursive. So the title parameter is optional. So we only have to provide the message over here. Let's quickly do it with our predefined message. And then it should show a dialog for us, run as eScript. Instead, we get an error. It says reference error, show info dialog is not defined. Because I have to import the module first so that I can actually use it. So all the modules are there for you to use, but they are not enabled by default. And if you load a module over here and execute it again, then it shows a dialog hello world. You can also debug your JavaScript application, so I can easily set a breakpoint over here and say debug our script. And if we go to the debugging perspective over here, we can see our variable over there, just like we know everything from debugging. And so this is a JavaScript application, and we don't want to start it directly by clicking on it. So what we can also do is register it with EASE to actually be displayed or shown in the UI interface. So I go to the Modules Explorer again. This is a small extension I actually built for the talk, so it's not available yet. Here's the list of headers. You can find them online on the wiki pages or in my slides later. So this is a list of supported headers. If I drag it here, you see it's like a comment, and I can give it my script a name. So I just call it hello for now. And I also want it to be displayed over here in the Script Explorer. This only works when I actually tell EASE where to find my scripts. So running directly works, but if I want to have the UI integration in the IDE, I have to tell EASE where to find my scripts. I can add it from the workspace. It's an EASE.js project in the folder script. And now it will directly appear from here, and I can double click it and execute it. But to integrate it directly within the Package Explorer, for example, I can use another header over here, which is called toolbar. If I drag it here, it gives me also the explanation, bind a script to a view toolbar. You don't have to provide the ID of the toolbar. It's much easier. You only have to provide the name over here, so I just type in Package Explorer. And right now it will appear over here. Hello, so I have my hello button in my IDE. This is all I have to do, actually, to have some stuff integrated in the Eclipse IDE. Very simple. So this was JavaScript, and we are now going to copy the script to Groovy, because JavaScript is nice, but it's not type safe, so you cannot use types. Everything is var, and I end up just adding comments for the actual types, because otherwise I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So we create a new Groovy class over here. We call it first as well. And then we can just copy over the code. So we don't need it to be a class. So it can just be a script over here. And the load module stuff is really nice. If you provide your own modules, they will work in any scripting language. So you don't have to write any integration with JavaScript or Groovy, some special integration. The code is generated for you by EASE itself. So it's going to use wrappers which call into your Java code, and those wrappers are generated. So I have to fix it over here. It's not var, it's a message. And I call it hello Groovy, and actually provide the script location as well, because it's now in a different project in Groovy. Apply and close. And now I have my script over here, hello Groovy, and it's also over here in the package as well, hello Groovy. So I should actually be able to run it, but instead I get an error over here. Sometimes the errors are kind of hard to read, right? Missing method exception and word wrap, so we can read the rest. But it gives us a hint over here with the parameter system UI. So something it can't find which has to do with system UI. If we look at the documentation over here, load module actually has another optional parameter. Right now, Groovy doesn't really work with optional parameters, but that's kind of easy to fix. So I have a debugging UI running here. And like I said, Groovy is wrapping all the modules so that they are available. So we just change the wrapping code over here. So this is what it does. Create function wrapper, very simple code. It iterates over the parameters, and it only gives the parameters names at the moment. If I want to support optional parameters, I just put in this 3 lines or 2 lines of code, and then we should actually be able to run it. Hello Groovy, now it works, right? So it's kind of very easy if some functionality is missing to actually extend it. It's usually only a few lines of code. Yeah, this is it for now. So let's have a quick overlook of the EASE functions. There are very good introductory talks by Christian, which you can watch online. So if you're more interested in the basic functionality, just have a look at these talks. So like we've seen before, we have a script shell where we can easily try out new code, which we are trying to write. There's also a script recorder, for example, which records the UI actions for you. Modules you only have to write once, and they're supported for all the languages. You can also load your own libraries by loading jars, or you can wrap existing Java classes by using the JVM integration. And you can also write unit tests, so it provides test suites for you. So if you want to unit test something which is in your IDE, for example, you can also use that. And the special headers work right. And you can also share your scripts on a network share. So you don't only have to use it in the workspace, you can also put it on a network share and share it with your colleagues. There are more available headers. Those are on the left-hand side, are all the headers which are available for, those are available for the integration with the UI. And on the right-hand side, we have some integration with events. So for example, I can execute a script on startup or on shutdown of the application. I can have a script running on save of an editor or resource change from the outside, or I can react to event bus, events on the OSGI event bus, which is quite nice integration as well, which is again shown in one of Christian's talks. There are a lot of available modules, so we have seen some of the system modules. There's also modules for creating charts within the IDE, so you can execute something in the background and directly get the results back and display a nice chart in the IDE. This is also nice. So choosing the language, there's a lot of scripting languages over there. Just some short notes I made while writing the talk. So JavaScript is really close to Java, so it's really easy to understand and write. Python is also very easy to learn, and Python and JavaScript provide a debugging support. Groovy, for example, is kind of a test integration. It doesn't have any debugging support, but it's close to Java and it is type safe, so I kind of like to use it. But as we see later, it's also very slow to start, so there might be some room for improvement. And maybe the Java REPL can also be available in the future, because now we have scripting support in Java as well. So let's go back to our demo and do some more integration, which might help you to actually in your daily work. So what we're going to do first is, I don't know if you ever noticed, but the organize imports, for example, is available on packages. So I have two classes here, which are just missing the array list import. So very simple. And let me scroll down so you can better see it. If you use the source organize imports on a package over here, it will only organize the imports directly in the classes of the package, right? So it just added the import over here, but it won't go for any sub-packages over here. I find this very annoying, so I wrote a little script actually to help me with that. And with that I can actually execute organize imports on the whole project. And it will go through all the packages and, like you can see, run on and organize the imports in all of my classes over here. So this is a kind of very simple script, because it just calls into the existing organize imports action. What I can do with scripts, I can also include other scripts in my existing script. So I have a JDT Groovy class over here, which contains the main code. You just have to watch out if you're doing some plugin integration. You already know that you have to run certain things in the UI thread. So here's execute in the UI as well. And if I go into the JDT Groovy script and to the organize imports action, it's actually quite easy. So it iterates over all the packages of the Java project we have passed in, and gets all the compilation units from it, and then runs the organize imports action, the existing one from the IDE. What you see here, I even have content assist. So it's showing up in the IDE what the organize imports action already has as a command. And this is happening because I actually made my Groovy project also a PDE project. And so I have a manifest over here, which drags in all my plugin dependencies, so I can actually use all the types and know what I'm doing. So whom of you ever developed an Eclipse 4 application? or creating views with it. Okay, some people, the other of you are still on Eclipse 3? Most of you. So I'm going to show you how an Eclipse 4 application looks like. So I have this simple RCP example product generated over here, which you can get when you just start a new project, and then it will show you, do you want to generate RCP application, and it will show you an Eclipse 4 template as well. So this is my Eclipse 4 app, and I also have a plugin over here. This is currently empty, right? So there's no plugin XML or something like that here. And in Eclipse 4, you have this application E4 XMI, so you're not using extension points anymore to register your views. Instead, you have this nice editor over here, which will show you all the controls, a part sesh container, part stack, and inside we have this sample part, which is shown over here, right? So this is how you usually develop or design your applications with Eclipse 4. And if you want to contribute to your application from a plugin, you have to create a fragment E4 XMI file as well to make the contribution and register that in a plugin XML, and then write your view and so on. So I don't want to actually do it by hand, right? So I created a little script. We will have a look at the code in a minute. I created a little script which will do all the stuff for me. So now I can actually click on a package over here and say add E4 view. It will ask me what name the view is, should have, my view, and then I execute it. Then it takes a lot of time, which also might be my fault, but it's also part's fault of the Groovy interpreter running very slowly. So what it will do, it will actually generate my view and then open an editor. So we know when it's done when it opens the editor. There it is. So what it did was creating the fragment file over here. It created the plugin XML file and registered the fragment in itself. And then in the fragment, we now have the model fragments, and there's our part over there registered. And my view is just a template over here. So I can now quickly fill in to display a label, for example. Create a new label. My label. And if we run our application again, which is still running, we run our application again. Then it will also show our example view over here. So this is quite nice. I can also add more than one view over here. Add E4 view. And create another one. Another view. And now it runs faster, right? So some optimization is running in the background to make it run faster. And then we have our other view in our application as well. But you maybe noticed I made a spelling mistake here, right? So I probably want to delete the view again, because doing it manually is also some effort, right? I have to go to the fragment and so on. So if I want to delete the view again, I probably want to do it as a right click on the compilation unit itself, so on my Java file. So this is what we are going to write now, and also see how the add view actually works. So I have a add view Groovy script over here, which does the integration with the UI, but it doesn't really contain much code. It just says on the package fragment, so on the package, that I have the pop-up action, so that I have the context menu entry over there, and it includes the main code is in the E4 Groovy. So we go into the E4 Groovy and have a look at there's a create new view method over here. It gets, first of all, gets the workspace location. Then it creates the view class. If we jump into the code, I just use a Groovy template over here and replace the class name, and then it gets written to a file over here. So this is also from an EASE module over here, from a system module, which we can use. And then it will say add view to fragment. It will refresh the resource, so the project, so that we can actually see our new files, and then it will open the editor window with our just created file. We go to add view to fragment. You see that it will create the fragment if it not exists. And in the create fragment, if it not exists, it will also create the plugin file if it not exists at the moment. Quickly go back, and then it will load our resource. So it will load our fragment E4XMI, which we just created. It will then load the model fragments from it. You can easily see it in our file over here, that we have a list of model fragments inside, and inside some fragments over here, and inside that it has elements. So we are loading our resource file over here, iterating or getting all the model fragments, and then we are adding a new fragment, string model fragment impl, set a feature name, set a parent element ID, you know, internal XML stuff, and then we create our part over here. So from the basic factory, we can say create a new part. We give it an element ID, contribution URI, and we also pass on a label, which will be shown as a parts label. And then we add it to the elements over here, and then we save the resource again. So very simple. So like I said, we want to implement the remove view as well. So let's copy the code from the add view and make a remove view. Remove fragment from view. We don't need the label over here because we just want to remove it and not create it. We don't need the create fragment if it not exists. We're just going to load the fragment. Then we get all the fragments in our model over here. And like I said before, we have an element inside. So I can go and say fragment.elements. And then on the element, I say if the element not get contributor URI, I always do it wrong, now I copy it over. If the contribution URI, which we just created by creating it like this, so it contains the class name, right? So it's just a very simple check. It's not really safe to actually do it that way, but for a demo it's sufficient. We see if it contains the class name, and then we want to remove the whole fragment over here. And so we need a list to remove. New array list, so content assist also works, like you might have known it from Groovy. At the beginning it's kind of slow, but gets faster over time. And so if our list to remove is not empty, what do we need to do? Do we need anything from below? We probably only need the save method from over here. So let's move it up, and we have to remove our two remove fragments from our list of fragments. So app get fragments, which is a list, and then we can say remove all to remove. And then this should work. Then we need some glue code over here. So we have a closure. We create a new one. Remove view. We don't need the label again. And we don't need to create a view class. We want to call the remove, how did I call it again? I have a additional comment over here, so content assist doesn't work. Remove fragment from view, which gives me all the parameters. I always forget the shortcut where you can actually disable that it fills in the parameters. Then we do a refresh resource in the end. First of all, we want to delete our file again. We actually have the class over here, so we can directly say remove, not remove file, delete file, class file, not show the editor. And then we have to have a different script because we want to bind it to the UI. We can only have one binding per file. So we say remove view as a new Groovy script over here. And now we want it to be integrated not on the package, but on the compilation unit, right? So you have to provide a fully qualified class name over here. So to actually know what the fully qualified class name is, you can just go over here and then use the E4 spice, which is in this case Alt-Shift F1, and then you see what is actually extending over here, and you can simply right-click and say copy qualified name. Then go back to our remove view and replace this reference. There are actually more than one references to our ifragment package, which we all want to replace over here. Very nice that also refactoring works in Groovy, so we can quickly rename it from package to unit. What we need to pass in is our class name. So first of all, we have to construct our class name. The package name is now, because we are on the unit, unit get parent, get element name. Our project name stays the same. I can directly get the Java project from here. And our class name is then our package name. Oops. Package name. And then we use the unit get element name over here. We still have to replace the Java in the end. Replace .java with nothing. We don't need all that stuff over here, but we want to print out the class name first to be actually possible to test the script before we execute it. So we say another view, we want to remove that one. Let me see. What did I miss? Remove view over here. Remove view. And now it will print out our class name over here. Right, that's the right class name. So I can go and call our imported closure over here, remove view. Don't use the label. And quickly execute it. Remove view. And then it should execute removing it from the fragment, which doesn't work now. Arrayless call is applicable for the arguments. Some small error over here. Somewhere in the Groovy script, something with an array list. Yep, to remove, I forgot the net. That might be helpful. And then it should actually work. So this is what I do. I remove it from the fragment first and then only delete the file, so the file doesn't get deleted if the remove from the fragment doesn't work. So now it's deleted again and it won't show up in our application. So at work, we still have an Eclipse 3 application. So the scripts that we use at work are generating extensions for registering the views. So I can quickly show what we are doing at work by using a new plugin project. A test project, contributions to the UI, yes, and finish. So this is an empty project. It doesn't contain a plugin XML. And I have to actually register a new script location, but now I'm being lazy. And somewhere over here, I have script locations. So I can quickly execute it. It registered another script location for me, so this is an E script as well. And now I have some additional actions over here. So what we do at work, we have our own database extensions, which are extending the same database which we use for the whole application. So you can register a database extension over here. You can see you can also use nice icons. So we are creating this database extension over here, which gets registered in a plugin XML, so this gets created. Then we can create an entity, add an entity, I call it car, which will generate our model entity class over here. It will also generate some caching code. It will generate the data access object, some event code, so we can actually, if something changes, we can notify the users that something changes. And in our entity, quickly have to fix the import over here. So it's not perfect, right? But it's kind of easy to fix it in the script. But for now, I just do it manually. So this is our entity code over here. What could be another field for a car? I already have the order ID inside. Another idea for a field in the car? Say again. Huh? Ah, color? Yeah, I take the color. Color, which is called Farbe in German. And now we want to create a view for it. First of all, we have to register a right provider, which is there for managing the user permissions to the views, so not everybody can see all the views. So this is the right provider over here now, and the view gets registered in the right provider, so I have to generate it first. And then I say, for the car, please create a car list view for me. And it will call another launch configuration, actually, in the background. This is what you see, the output over here. And like you can see, the car table composite, like we use it, so it's basically a table viewer, but we use a little bit simpler layout to actually add table columns, so I know what's going on. And it created the new table column over here called color. So it's kind of easy to actually get started with our entities and generating some code so we don't have to write it by hand, because usually you want to display all the entities as well. All right. So let's get back to the presentation. Here's what I've did so that you can actually see what's going to happen. A small note, there are also simple templates provided in the UI, right? If you just want to create a simple line or want to create the structure of all your Java class files, you don't need EASE, so you can just use templates in the IDE. There's a nice EASE examples repository where all the examples from the previous EclipseCons are collected. There are some nice examples inside, like copy marked code directly to Pastebin and get the URL back, so you can actually use it. And write a changelog every time a file changes, all kinds of funny stuff. I just want to show you one of those, so you can quickly use it in your application as well. I have them somewhere here. It's JavaScript examples at print line tasks. So it will generate a task marker for me if I use a system out print line in some of my classes. So it will not generate a to-do, but if I want to work on those right away, here's my system out print line, then I can just execute that one. And it will hopefully, sometimes it doesn't, it will hopefully create a marker here for me, right, to do system out print lines, so I can fix all my system out print lines, for example. So there's some nice stuff which you can actually do with EASE. So to summarize it, extending Eclipse is way easier when using EASE. So it might not seem like a good idea at first. It might look like prototyping, but especially with generating views, there's a lot of stuff which is changing quite often. So you might want to create 5 views which are a little bit different. Then you can quickly change your scripts and change it back again after you generated the 5 views. You can't possibly do that because you always have to restart when you develop plugins. And so this is much easier. And if you are distributing your own products based on RCP, you can provide EASE integrations as well for your users, which might not be fluent in Java or any other language, but a lot of people know Python, for example, so they can extend your product as well. So some other talks today. Christian's having a talk on Sysbox today, and this also includes some EASE examples, and there are the other links to the talks, which you can find on YouTube and have a look at those. And you can find my slides already online, and some example code. I will provide the other examples as well. And if you have some feedback, please vote on the voting tool on the website or contact me directly on Twitter. And do we have any time left? Yeah, probably 2 minutes left. So is there any questions?
Within e-scripting, you're clearly a Java developer. Do you have users who are Java developers who write scripts as well?
I currently don't have any developers which are writing script code as well, but yeah, it might be possible. I think it's a good idea, so I didn't have a use case for it yet. Maybe Christian, you know, if anybody uses it, you don't. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Are there other script engines coming with EASE? I think currently there's only some development on the Python side, so to integrate the debugger better, to have better content assist in Python. There was some work to allow conditional breakpoints, for example. I think there's nothing planned for other language integrations right now.
If all the languages we saw here, are they all coming together with these, or do they need to be called externally?
Okay, I understand. So the language support, does it have to be installed, right? So the languages itself don't, yeah, the runtime engines, you can install them one by one. So if you only want JavaScript, you only have to install the EASE JavaScript runtime. If you want to have a Groovy content assist support, you additionally have to install the Groovy IDE plugin, for example. Does it answer your question? Okay, then.
Part of EASE, the Groovy, for example, Groovy scripting engine.
The scripting engine is part of EASE, yes. You can install it. All right. Another question? All right. You can also see me after my talk or when I run around somewhere. Just say hello if you have any other questions or contact me on Twitter. And so thanks for attending my talk and have a nice rest of EclipseCon.